This could be massive for the future of the Pittsburgh Penguins. They lost 3 games to teams that they should have beat, and now they're in a situation where they almost have to trade away assets and maximize value. This video is going to be me telling you which players should be traded and will be traded by Kyle Dubas leading up to the trade deadline. The Penguins are in a very difficult spot. Their road trip that they were just on was essentially going to determine their season because they lost a lot of games, 3 in a row in particular. They are now sitting second to last in the Eastern Conference. If they would have won those 3 games, they would be 1 point out of a playoff spot. Winnable games that you need to find a way to win, unable to capitalize on key chances and opportunities, puts them in a situation where now their season could be lost. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Most of you have not yet subscribed to Penguins Digest. We're close to 600 subscribers, so subscribe to the Penguins channel if you want the latest Pittsburgh Penguins updates, news, rumors, analysis. We got it all here on Penguins Digest, so sub to the channel and we got you covered. Today we're talking about the 7 most likely and most warranted trade pieces on the Penguins roster right now. I'm going to show you their cap hits, their current contract, when they're going to be a free agent, and their stats on the season, just to kind of give you a tell of what we have cooking in the grill right now. Kyle Dubas with a lot of options, but what is he actually going to do? The first name that I'm going to throw at you is one that has been on the market for quite some time, and we've talked about him on this channel already, Marcus Pettersson. He is a 2025 unrestricted free agent, and he is one of the best defensemen on the Penguins. He's going to garner a lot of attention on the trade market. He already has, and the fact that he hasn't been traded already tells you that Dubas wasn't willing to give up Pettersson for nothing. He's trying to maximize the trade value of Marcus Pettersson. The longer he waits till the trade deadline, the more he can get for Marcus Pettersson, because what happens is teams get desperate. Near the trade deadline, they're willing to pay a premium for really good players, and Marcus Pettersson fits the bill. He's a rental, so they're not expecting to get a ridiculous haul for him, but I could expect the Penguins to maybe get a first-round pick for Marcus Pettersson if the right trade comes up. Now, I would personally prefer maybe like a third-round pick and a prospect, but there is teams out there that really need a left-shot defenseman that are trying to make a push for the playoffs, and they could give up, a high price for Marcus Pettersson. So I'm expecting that as we look at the defensemen on Spock track, the cap chart for the Penguins yearly. And the defense, really the only guys that are set in stone are Karlsson, Letang, and Graves, and we'll get to Graves later because that is probably one of the worst contracts I've ever seen. Him and Tristan Jarry, signed by Dubas, were his 2 biggest mistakes as general manager of the Penguins. But Marcus Pettersson and then everybody under him is either a free agent this upcoming offseason or the offseason after that. So who I'm going to tell you that we should trade are the guys that I don't want in the long-term plans, that I don't think fit the bill as far as what we're looking for in the next 3 to 5 years moving forward, right? So these guys that I'm not going to mention in the video are guys I expect to be Penguins for a long time. And the guys I do mention are guys that we're just trying to maximize value of. Like, we understand other teams need defensemen, so why not trade one of our best defensemen, Marcus Pettersson? If we get a trade offer that Kyle Dubas cannot pass up, he is going to trade Marcus Pettersson, and the stats speak for themselves. Marcus Pettersson is kind of a defensive defenseman, but he's also putting up numbers on the offensive side. He's playing on the first pairing with Kris Letang most of the time. He's playing on the second pairing with Erik Karlsson. He has been a solid guy for the Pens, and when he was injured, just like I said about Pickering yesterday, we felt his absence. He actually does make an impact on the game for as much hate as he gets, and to only be a -3 on a team as bad as the Penguins right now, that says a lot about him, and his expected plus minus is actually over. It's actually 0.5, so it's basically 1. He has 55 hits on the season. He's blocked 80 shots. He's averaging over 20 minutes time on ice, over 22 minutes time on ice, playing some big minutes. He's playing on the power play sometimes, mostly the penalty kill, 5-on-5. Penguins have struggled in 5-on-5, but Pettersson is one of those guys, he's been an impact player, and other teams see that, what he can bring to the table. He's got that length. He's able to use his stick, good stride, good skater, and pretty much everything you need in a top 4 defenseman. So other teams are going to see that, and they're going to be like, oh, we could get Marcus Pettersson? Yes, you can. Please take him. And then the next guy that I'm going to talk about is a guy that I talked about once before as well, Matt Grzelcyk. And the reason I talk about Grzelcyk being traded is because he is a UFA at the end of the season, 2025 UFA, but also he's really been good lately for the Penguins. He's been the quarterback on their power play. Their most successful power play has actually been with Grzelcyk, not Karlsson. So he's starting to even maximize his trade value further than it already was as a less shot defenseman that other teams could go after. He could play on the second pairing, maybe even the first pairing like he did in Boston with Charlie Mack. And then he could play on your power play. He has so many different, good assets to his game that he could bring to the table. And if you look at his cap hit as well, it's very team friendly. Matt Grzelcyk's only making $2.75 million. I'm sure the Penguins would be willing to eat a little bit of that to make a deal work, get some prospects, get a package together for him. And other teams are desperate for this defensive help. So the Penguins have these two really solid defensemen, Marcus Pettersson, Matt Grzelcyk, that they could trade away at any given time. And right now is probably peak value for Matt Grzelcyk because the way he's been playing lately. He already set a career high this season in assists, and his expected ±8, so not as solid as far as defense as Marcus Pettersson, but he's a better offensive defenseman than Marcus Pettersson. He's bringing a lot to the Penguins this year, and this power play has really turned around because of Matt Grzelcyk being that quarterback on the power play unit. He's played in every game for the Penguins this season, and he's averaging about a point every 2 games at this point. He's got 63 shots on goal, 22 hits this season, but he's blocked 69 shots. And he's undersized, 5'10", but he's got so much NHL experience playing on really good teams, playing on playoff teams. With Boston, he was a first pairing defenseman. That's why the Penguins went out and got him for $2.75 million on a 1-year deal. And I'm really excited about Matt Grzelcyk and what he could possibly warrant in return because he has played so well, so much higher than what we really expected. He's finally reaching his potential with the Penguins. And normally I would say if a guy's playing as well as Matt Grzelcyk, you want to keep him around. You want to continue to build around him. But he's 32 years old almost. And I just don't really see a world where we're going to sign him because we want to see all these young players get an opportunity. And that's why we really have to trade at least 2 defensemen away if we want to give everybody a fair shot. Right? And I'll get to another defenseman later in the video, but we did want to start with defense because Pettersson and Grzelcyk had been so hot on the trade market and so much buzz surrounding those two guys. It's almost a guarantee that they're going to be traded. At least Pettersson will be, and I would not be surprised. And I expect Matt Grzelcyk to be traded as well. As we move on to the forwards, first guy I'm going to mention is Matt Nieto, and not because he's some, flashy player. He is a 4th line type player, but he can kill penalties. And if you want Matt Nieto on your team, he's not going to cost you a whole lot, right? We'll look at his salary here in just a second. He's making under $1 million. That was one of those signings that Kyle Dubas made last offseason. It was a 1-year deal to Matt Nieto. He's playing on the 4th line, but he's also been a healthy scratch a lot this season. So we haven't seen a whole lot of Matt Nieto. He had been scratched for so long, kind of like Kevin Hayes was, but the difference is Kevin Hayes has now found a home. He's found a spot in this lineup where he's really good. Mike Sullivan really likes him. Matt Nieto, not really the same deal. Matt Nieto hasn't really proven much to me, and I don't think he's worth keeping around, especially if he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. You got to get something for him. Even if you get like a mid-round pick, some team wants depth at forward. If they have an injury, maybe they need Matt Nieto. If they need a penalty killer, maybe they need Matt Nieto. If they just need to help their 4th line, spark their 4th line a little bit, Matt Nieto could be your guy. So I think other teams will be after Nieto more than you really expect because of what he can do on special teams. I really want to emphasize his penalty killing because he has played penalty kill time on ice for the Penguins. He's only averaged about 12 minutes of time on ice per game, but he's been killing the penalties. He's been playing alongside, Nola Chari, Cody Glass is out there for some penalty kills, Brian Russ is out there for some penalty kills. We have had a decent penalty kill until lately when our team really just started to fall apart. But overall, you got to expect Matt Nieto, who really only has 3 points this season, but he's playing those penalty kill minutes for the Pens, and he's doing a pretty good job at it. He has actually been in some of the Penguins' most common duos on the forward pairings for the penalty kills. So you just have to take that into account when you're looking at Matt Nieto's value. His value is he's a veteran. He's been there, done that. He's about an even level player, and hey, he's going to play on the wing on your 4th line. He's going to help you kill penalties. What more could you ask for? You know what you're getting in Matt Nieto. We're not hiding what he is. We're not expecting to get a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round pick for him, right? We're expecting a team that needs that exact piece to their puzzle to trade for Matt Nieto, plug him in the lineup on the 4th line, and let him kill penalties, because there are teams that need that and would go after Matt Nieto. So I'm saying he does have value. That's why I would maximize that and trade him. Then you open up a wing spot for a guy like Rucker McGroarty or Sam Poulin or any of the guys I mentioned in the video yesterday. So that's really what it comes down to, is trading away pieces to free up space, because this dude's a healthy scratch. So let's trade him and get something for him. Here's one that's going to surprise you guys. Anthony Beauvillier. Now, we've heard the buzz about Drew O'Connor. We've heard the buzz about Anthony Beauvillier. I would rather keep Drew O'Connor. That's just me. I would rather keep Drew O'Connor. I like the defensive aspect of his game. Beauvillier is more of a flash in the pan type of guy. He's going to get hot sometimes. He's going to be ice cold sometimes. You can't rely on him for anything. If you put him on the first line, yeah, he's playing with one of the best players ever, Sidney Crosby. Of course he's going to produce. But Anthony Beauvillier, he's only making $1.25 million. He's already contributed to this team. He's already done decent things in this one-year contract that Kyle Dubas decided to give him, and now he's showing that he has some trade value. He's got the speed. He's got the skill. Just put him on a team where they can really maximize what this guy is about, because he's really wasted time on the Penguins' third line. The only time he's really been productive offensively this season, and I'll show you his stats here in just a second, is when he's played with Sidney Crosby, and we shouldn't need a guy to play with Sidney Crosby to be productive on offense, because that's what Beauvillier brings to the table, is his offense. Drew O'Connor has this defensive side to him, this grit to him that we desperately need on this team. So I'd rather keep O'Connor, get him the contract, and trade away Anthony Beauvillier. Still just 27 years old. You know, his expected plus minus is about even, and he has 11 goals this season. So on a team in the right situation, you know, he's a +1, one of the few Penguins players that is a plus this season. He could actually really help a team get over the edge and be a cup contender. I really believe that. He's not afraid to shoot the puck on goal, 89 shots on goal. He's shooting about 12% clip this season. He's not going to win you faceoffs. I'm not expecting that. But if you put him on the left wing next to a skilled center, a playmaker, he could set up Anthony Beauvillier and let that boy run, because he can move. He's got wheels, and he also has a pretty decent shot. And he could score goals for you. He's got 11 goals this season. We've seen what he could do with Sid. Put him with the skill player. Seriously, the Penguins don't have room for him to be on the top two lines because we have so many decent players as is. I like Raquel and Russ surrounding Sidney Crosby on the first line, and Beauvillier hasn't shown any chemistry with Evgeni Malkin. So I'd rather trade him to a team that needs a player like him, that needs a little bit of speed, a little bit of edge to their game, and he can help boost any forward group, truly. I think he's one of the most valuable assets that we have to trade away as a rental because of what he's shown this season, even though he is that flash in the pan type player. When he has been hot, hey, you know what I mean? So he could really get something for us at this point. The next guy I want to talk about is Noel Acciari. And Noel Acciari is a guy that Dubas also signed around the same time as all these other guys. You know, Nieto, Lizotte. He made all these moves during the offseason thinking, oh, these are going to be our role players. Acciari has had his moments, but he's also had some really bad moments, and he hasn't been the same player since the Tampa game where he cost us the game. He really had taken a step back before that, but other teams can look at Noel Acciari from the outside perspective and be like, hey, this guy, he's affordable. You know, he's making $2 million a year. He's got another year of team control. 2026 unrestricted free agent, Noel Acciari. He hits people like crazy. He brings his physical brand of hockey, and like Matt Nieto, he can kill penalties for you. He's not afraid to lay the body on. He can kill penalties for you, and he can play minutes on your third or fourth line. I would prefer fourth line, but honestly, the chemistry him and Nieto had earlier in the season, if there's a team out there that really lacks fourth line production and fourth line depth, they could get both of those pieces, pair them with somebody else that they already have, and there you go. There's your new fourth line. So I think there's got to be a team out there that's interested in Noel Acciari and Matt Nieto, but Acciari brings a completely different brand of hockey that the Penguins miss. But, you know, 5'10", he plays way bigger than that. He plays above his size. You know, he's actually been a -15 player this season, but the offensive stats are not going to jump out at you. They're really not. But the penalty kill minutes that this dude plays, and I've seen him play some decent minutes on the penalty kill. He and Nieto have been some of the top penalty kill time on ice guys on the Penguins this season, and that is huge. You guys, I keep mentioning it because it's so important. Special teams are so key in the NHL, especially with the team like the Penguins that struggle at 5-on-5. Your penalty kill and power play are that much more important. So if there's a team out there that needs some help on the PK, Noel Acciari is your guy. Matt Nieto might be your guy, but Noel Acciari even more so because he's so physical. He's not afraid to just run all over the ice, knock people over, and he's still pretty decent with the puck as well. You know, we've seen flashes of what he could do scoring-wise over the course of his career, and that's one of the reasons why the Penguins are paying him $2 million. But that's still a team-friendly deal. All these guys I'm mentioning here are team-friendly contracts. They wouldn't be movable if they weren't team-friendly contracts. That's why they do have some value, because there's more places that they can fit in, both financially and skill-wise, as far as the actual structure of a NHL team. These guys know what role they're in. They know what they can do, what they can't do. They don't try to be someone that they're not. They are purely themselves, and what you see is what you get. So if other teams are interested in Noel Acciari, if you need that, 5'10", just like boomerang that flies around the ice hitting people and kills penalties for you, fourth line minutes, that's your guy. Noel Acciari is your guy. So let's move on to the next aspect of this trade preview, and I'm going to talk about Alex Nedeljkovic. Now, this is a weird one. You guys are going to question me for putting Alex Nedeljkovic on here. The Penguins signed him to a really team-friendly deal, right? It's more like Tristan Jarry was making too much money to be traded. Alex Nedeljkovic is not. So when we heard about Alex Nedeljkovic possibly being traded, this is what we meant. Him being shipped to a team that needs a backup goalie that can afford $2 million cap hit, 2.5, and feels like Nedeljkovic would be better in a better situation because the numbers of the Penguins goalies are bad, mostly because of our defensive play. Our defense has been so bad that the goalies are put in really difficult situations, and Ned's stats don't really show the full story. That's why I'm not even showing you Ned's stats, because it's so deceiving to look at what his numbers are on the season and say, oh, he's been terrible. The defense has been terrible just as much as he has. So that's why I'm trying to tell you guys, there is no problem with Ned necessarily. Other teams could see, hey, this guy's decent. He's got good reaction. He's got good, post-to-post movement. He's a decent goalie. He's a decent backup goalie. He's not starter quality as much as we want him to be. He's not. We have so many goalies in our system right now. Larson, we talked about Murashov yesterday. Blomqvist getting a fair crack at it now. I say let's trade Nedeljkovic and let's just let the young guys run it. Let's let the young guys run it, give them the minutes, give them the opportunity, and let's see what we got here. Because we've got multiple goalies that we're going to choose between for next year. Nedeljkovic is not our future. He's 29 years old. He's never really been elite. And we need somebody that has at least the potential to be elite, to develop into that next franchise goalie, because we're looking a little bit farther ahead in the future. Ned is not the future. So right now, if another team is needing a goalie, which a lot of teams do, I look at the New Jersey Devils and I say, hey, they're missing Markstrom for a long time. They're losing every game with Jake Allen right now. If they want Nedeljkovic, they can have him. That's my take on it. There are other teams as well. Goalie injuries, the Ottawa Senators, Allmark's been down. They have a different situation because Merilainen and, but there are teams that need a goalie. I would trade Nedeljkovic in a heartbeat if it meant we could get anything back in return, clear that spot, bring up another young goalie. Blomqvist is getting a cut, right? He got sent down before. He's not getting sent down now. This is his crease now. And I think that if we call up, Larson, because Murashov's getting the minutes down at the AHL, we could alternate Larson and Blomqvist, the guys at the AHL we're using for most of the season, and we could get some decent goaltending and just see what these young guys can do. That's what I really want, is just to see these young guys. It's all about clearing spots, and this is a guy that you want to clear off the team completely. Ryan Graves. If I could go back and undo this contract ever being signed in the first place, I would, but we can't. And he doesn't have any trade value. That's why he's the last guy I'm putting on this list, because he's making $4.5 million to suck. This guy is terrible. I don't understand why this guy was signed in the first place by Kyle Dubas, but at the same time, he's supposed to be this defensive defenseman. If you think back to what he was in New Jersey, I'm not saying he was anything crazy, but he was more like the $4.5 million defenseman that we signed, and since he came to Pittsburgh, he has not been the same dude. He has been a shell of himself. He hasn't done what he was expected to do. He hasn't even been in the lineup. He's so bad, we have to healthy scratch him more often than not. So at this point, the reason I put him on here, awful contract. I'm not expecting to get, a ton of trade value for him. If we can't trade him, then I would waive him. I really would, because at some point there's got to be a team desperate for a defenseman, willing to spend the $4.5 million and willing to claim him. We thought the same thing with Tristan Jarry. Well, now he's in the AHL. Ryan Graves is not good. Okay, it is what it is. I would trade him for a bag of chips. I would pay another team to take him. I would give them a 7th or a 6th round pick to take this dude off our books, because he's signed through 28-29. He goes farther than that graph shows you. That's how long this dude's going to be under contract, and he's so bad. I don't understand if we can even get him off this roster because it's such a troublesome contract to begin with, but I would at least try. I would at least urge Kyle Dubas to try. He's the only player I put on here that is simply a contract liability. All the rest of the players, it's because they have team-friendly deals. I didn't put Kevin Hayes on there because I think Kevin Hayes could be part of the next few years where we're developing these young players. You saw what Hayes did for Owen Pickering, how good of a player he is in the locker room, how much of a veteran leader presence he brings. You got to keep Kevin Hayes around. You got to keep some guys around, Crosby, Malkin, Letang, whatever. But you do need to free up some spots for these young guys. And if there's guys that aren't in your long-term plans, you got to trade them away. As much as it hurts me to say, Anthony Beauvillier, I think he's got to go. I think Grzelcyk's got to go. I think Pettersson's got to go. I think Nieto's got to go. Achari's got to go. And really, Ned can go if you want him. If you guys want him, take him, right? And then as far as Ryan Graves, he's literally just eating up a spot in the lineup right now. He's not good enough to even be in the lineup, but he's there now because we sent Pickering back down, had some injury issues. But $4.5 million for that dude is absolutely horrendous. I would do anything to get him off this team. I really would. And I hope Kyle Dubas can find a way to undo his error in signing Ryan Graves, just like the error in signing Tristan Jarry. Jarry's a little bit more complex. He's doing really bad in the AHL since he got sent down, so I don't think he's ever going to go anywhere. He's going to be stuck on our books, and I'm afraid that that's going to be the same case with Ryan Graves. That's $9 million. That's almost $10 million. That's like 9.7 or $9.8 million between those two guys. Oh my gosh. You think about that, it's so frustrating, but guys, we're still paying players from the last few years. Bad contracts. Jeff Petrie, Jack Johnson. This Penguins team needs a reset button. They need a reset button. Penguins Digest. We had to talk about all these players that we got to ship away in order to start this rebuild and in order to really have these young players get that opportunity to crack the lineup at the NHL level. So thank you guys for watching. Those were the 7 guys I would trade first and foremost before I do anything else. I'm signing Drew O'Connor to an extension. I'm keeping Kevin Hayes around at least for another year. Help him, groom these younger players. Sid's not going anywhere. Sid wants to stay put. Erik Karlsson's too difficult a contract to move. And then Kris Letang, Evgeni Malkin, Sidney Crosby. If I have a choice, I'm not trading them. But there's obviously that same argument that you could make that they deserve it. They deserve to be in a team that they can compete. And that was the video I made a few videos ago about Malkin. Everybody's saying I hate Malkin. I don't hate Malkin. I love Malkin. He's one of the greatest Penguins of all time. Arguably one of the greatest players in NHL history, really. At least top 100, top 50 maybe. But Evgeni Malkin is up there, man. He is a generational type player. Him and Crosby are the reason we have the Stanley Cups. And Malkin, before Crosby really started making an impact, Malkin was that clutch guy in the playoffs, and he helped us a lot. So I can't erase what Evgeni Malkin did for this franchise. I love Evgeni Malkin. If we could trade him to the Caps, though, give him a chance to another ring. I know y'all hate that, but Malkin and Ovechkin together would be pretty cool. So that's why I made the video about it. Now, we're just talking about guys that we could trade. None of those big names that is more, questionable. These are legitimate pieces that could be traded before the trade deadline. Kyle Dubas can maximize trade value on, and I expect him to do so. But thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next edition of Penguins Digest.